Hi, this is Patty Blue Hayes, and I wanted to share with you something I call the seasons of healing. Most of us are familiar with the four seasons, obviously depending on where you live. There's autumn, winter, spring, and summer. And on my own path of healing, I found that it's taken me about 3 years. So I've had 3 years of experiencing all four seasons 3 times. And I found that they're very different depending on where I was in my healing path. For example, the first year, my first autumn experience was falling. And then my first winter experience was frozen. And that first spring was a spring thaw. And then summer was drought. In the second year, the autumn was tilling the soil. And in the second winter, it was hibernation. In the second spring, there was bud break. And in the second summer, it was sunny with a chance of showers. In the third year, autumn represented harvest, and winter was the winter solstice, and spring was growth, and summer was blossoming. I will tell you that these seasons don't all go in a linear fashion. They haven't for me. Sometimes you'll find yourself in this beautiful, blooming summer day, and all of a sudden there's a cold snap, and you're back to feeling frozen in that winter paralyzed time, and you're right back. That pain is just so fresh. You could experience all four seasons in a day, or maybe in an hour. I mean, that is how fluid emotions are for human beings. Once we're in a little microclimate, if you're in that period of a cold frost, when you're having that beautiful summer day and you thought everything was fine and everything's blossoming, and you're like, great, I've been through the pain, I've been through the suffering, I've tilled the soil, I've planted the seeds, things are supposed to be blossoming. Why am I feeling horrible and empty and alone and miserable and isolated and sad and back to the tissue box? It's just a little microclimate. It's an opportunity for growth. It's another opportunity for healing and sitting with the feelings and just processing through that. It will pass more quickly than the original first season of healing. We all experience loss in our lives. The loss that prompted me to come up with this seasons of healing was in October of 2010, when my marriage came to a very abrupt end. And in looking back now, obviously hindsight is 2020, that season really, it just felt like falling. I had this sturdy tree with roots in the ground, my life the way I thought it was, the marriage how I thought it was, and what I believed it would be in the future. And there I was, this little leaf on the tree, hanging out, having a great time, and all of a sudden a huge windstorm comes through, and I was detached and falling. Found myself just falling, and it was a very scary time, and it was traumatic, really. I had believed in happily ever after. I believed in forever. I thought things were going to be a certain way. I thought I was going to have that person in my life forever, and his family and all the traditions and plans and all those things. And it was extremely disorienting for me. And I describe how it really felt like I found myself in a nuclear wasteland, because in one moment or one few span of days, it felt like my past and the future and the present ceased to exist simultaneously. It was kind of like a science fiction version of my life. It was very surreal, almost like an out-of-body experience. One book I wanted to share with you that really helped me through several different types of losses in my life is How to Survive the Loss of a Love. And on the very first page, it says, when an emotional injury takes place, the body begins a process as natural as the healing of a physical wound. Let the process happen. Trust the process. Surrender to it. I was very confused about feelings and emotions. I didn't really see the difference in the two. And I understand now that emotions are energy in motion. And I was afraid of feeling the feelings that I was going through because they were so painful. I would encourage you to not do what I did, and to actually embrace them and feel them. It's very important because that is actually how the body and how our spirit is going to heal through that process. It really is like having a physical wound. You need to, have that moment of pain that signals to the body that there's a crisis, there's a trauma, something's going on, and then you can address the wound, give it some ointment, some cleansing, and finally bandage and wrapping and letting it heal. So right now, if you're in that falling stage from a loss, it's kind of like a critical stage, and the treatment is much like triage. Feeling the feelings is so critical. It's the first step in that direction of healing. Sometimes it's helpful to set the stage for the feeling and know that emotions are very fluid. They're very, very fluid, and they can change minute to minute sometimes. They're not going to be with you forever. That one feeling is going to change. You are going to feel better. Have that belief, but feel that feeling and allow yourself to feel it. If you're in the phase where you're crying and just need to curl up in a ball on the floor or pull the covers over your head in bed and stay there for hours, do that. Allow yourself the time to do that. Another helpful thing for me was to stay in the moment, to be present. I think part of the anxiety I faced was all those swirling thoughts that were going on in my mind about the future, the questions, what if? I don't know what's going to happen. Everything was unknown. Everything was up in the air. And of course, it's very difficult to do that. But there are a few tools and techniques to use to help keep yourself in the present moment. One of the things I did at the time was repeat out loud, "This too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass." And sometimes I just had to say that over and over and over to not let my mind have the other swirling thoughts come in. A great tool is meditation. Anytime you can quiet the mind, listen to some music, if there's any meditations that you listen to in particular, go ahead and use those as a tool to keep the mind present and still. The past does not exist. It doesn't exist. It's just memory trace in our mind. And the future is unknown. It's a mystery. The only moment we have is right now. And that's gone. And then it's right now. And sometimes it comes down to breaking it down to, am I okay in this very moment? Yes. Am I bleeding? Is there a gaping wound in my body? No. Yes, your spirit might be broken and you might be feeling like there's an artery that's draining your lifeblood. But if you really take a look, at the current condition, are you okay in this moment? Is there a building collapsing around you? Is a car crash imminent? No? Then I'm okay in this very moment. Another thing that's very helpful during this time of falling, when you really feel like your life is falling apart, is to keep perspective and to have gratitude. One way that I kept perspective on my situation was by doing volunteer work. And I will tell you, I had no business tutoring math to anyone, but I signed on to volunteer with School on Wheels, which is a great organization in Los Angeles, and they tutor homeless youth. I was paired with an adorable little third grade girl and she was much brighter than I was, especially when it came to math. But I did my best. I showed up, and it helped me just keep perspective. And I'd like to actually share a story of one day when I was driving to see her at the shelter. It was in South LA, and I was driving down there. I was actually listening to Les Brown on the radio. He's a great guy who got me through a lot of sad times. When I'd be in the car and I found him on the station, it was very inspiring to listen to him. So I'm listening to Les Brown. I'm feeling a little sorry for myself, driving to go tutor, and I drove past. It was a funeral home where I had been years prior for the funeral of a young woman who died of a brain aneurysm. I think she was maybe 30 or 32 when she died. And she had been one of those women who was just a bright, beautiful spirit. And that gave me perspective. Like, even though my life was falling apart, I had a life to fall apart. I was still alive. I was still feeling something. Having gratitude, there's always something we can have gratitude for. Even Viktor Frankl, who, if you've read Man's Search for Meaning, it was a book that he wrote while he was in a Nazi concentration camp. He was a psychiatrist, and he wrote of even being able to find things that he was grateful for and to feel love in his situation. He wrote about visualizing his wife's face, and he would see the love in her eyes, and he would just think about that, focus on the love coming from her eyes, and then he would start to feel love. And he was in some, tremendously horrible conditions. There's always something to feel grateful for. There was an incredible video that I watched on one of the TED Talks by Amy Purdy. There'll be a link here if I can figure out how to do that. And I watched that over and over. I think I've probably watched it 50 times, and I continue to watch it today because I'm still so inspired by her story. Any way that you can be grateful and even start the day with gratitude is going to help in the long run on this path of healing. And finally, I would say that this is a time to be kind to yourself. This is a time to treat yourself with love and embrace the fact that you're in pain, and be kind and allow yourself this time to go through this phase and get to the next stage of healing, because it is a process. And I sit here today having gone through this and starting out not thinking that I would survive that pain. I've been in that dark place. I have collapsed on the floor in a puddle of tears, not feeling like I could go on. I have cried to the point of not even bothering grabbing a tissue because there were so many tears coming that a tissue would not have been enough to dry the tears. I slept next to a pile of my husband's clothes for 3 months. I would lump them together and smell them and wish that it was not his clothing, but that it was him. But he wasn't coming back. And that was a tremendous, intense pain. And those feelings can sometimes feel like they're going to drown you, like you're in a puddle of tar. I have been there. I know what you're going through. And even though this is a video, obviously, I don't know you, you don't know me, I want you to know that you're not alone in this experience. You're not alone in the feelings that you're going through. And I hope that you can hear my compassion for you and my wish, my desire that you would see that there will be a brighter time in your life. There will be a brighter day. You will get through this. This too shall pass. and you will be stronger. You will emerge from this. I know that for you. I hope you come back and keep in touch with the videos. I'm going to be talking about the different seasons of healing and how that's been for me on my path. Thank you.